Being a dad is hard. It's high stakes. It takes a toll on our self-worth, mental health, and can be lonely. But why would we ever want to do something so important in isolation? Legacy Makers, a conversation for dads, is quite simply two normal dads having conversations about, you guessed it, being a dad. The highs, the lows, and the learnings along the way. We are four dads. We want to remedy the deficiency we see in community for dads, and we want to ruthlessly encourage dads on their journey to build lasting legacy for the faces they love the most. All right, Kev, so we're talking about just the craziness that's happening in the world today. So I just get back from a meeting in Washington, D.C., and part of the conversation was all around consumers, like what's happening with values, what's happening in America across, right now, I think it's the only time in history where there's 5 generations in the workforce, baby boomers all the way down to Gen Z, which is incredible when you think about the challenge of leading through that, right? So that was the lens of the conversation, just trying to pull out like, okay, what's happening? Well, I'm in this meeting and I'm thinking about like as a dad, like this as well, right? Because we've got younger kids and some of the statistics were insane when you look at just the value shift, like the values in the US and the shift between baby boomers and Gen Z. Yeah. So a couple of things that really resonated with me. The first one was around, is America the best place to live? So this is from an MSNBC poll, and baby boomers responded 66% favorable.
So 66% of baby boomers say that America is the best place to live.
Best place to live.
Okay.
33% Gen Z.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
half.
Doesn't matter, right? Whatever your view is, I believe that, I would have responded yes, but if you're listening to this and you don't think that's fine, but just the shift there. Having children, is having children like a good thing? 52% of
So this is not even just do I want to have children, just is that a good thing?
Is it a good thing?
Okay.
Baby boomers, 52%. What does that say? Because they probably all have children, so that means it was a bad experience for them. But the thought for Gen Z was 23%. So less than 1 in 4 are saying, yeah, I plan to do that. It's going to be good. It's going to be fulfilling. Belief in religion, 65% Gen Z or baby boomers say yes. Gen Z is at 26%. Patriotism, 76 to 32. So
this is starting off really strong. This is really encouraging statistics.
So when we think about, and it's the reality of the world we're living in, right? Like there's a ton of influence going on outside the house. You've got 24/7 news. We know all the things. But for me, it was this reminder of like, we as dads have to, in partnership with our spouse, determine what reality are our kids going to grow up in. And again, it's not good or bad, but this is just the shift of like, in my mind, like just optimism for the future. Right now, Gen Z is not feeling that at all. And it just was this thing that just hit me as I think about all of the things going on in the world right now. And like, how do I as a dad like impact that? And it's candidly overwhelming.
Okay. I want us to discuss what do we do about that?
Yeah.
But I have got to ask you at the beginning, why do you think this is? Why do you think things have changed?
Well, I think it's probably, it's a combination. I'll tell you, for me, I walked away really helpless though. Like it was this helpless feeling of it's so big, you know what I mean? Like it's so big and like you want to try to like chip away at that, but can you really do it? And I just kept like what I guess was convicted around like, you have to start with your kiddos. You have to start with your family. But I think, for me, I think we can rattle off a few. I mean, certainly social media is a big part of that, right? Like, our kids are on social media way earlier. The access to information, the access to a narrative oftentimes is going to be driven by certain algorithmic things. And unfortunately, it just feels what's being pushed in social media is a very negative picture of everything. There's not a lot of positive conversation. So when you think about that being fed to our kids at a very early age, that wasn't a thing for us even growing up, recently.
Yeah, it's good to refocus on how do you approach this as a dad, because I think if you see yourself as a leader and you want to immediately start with, well, what are the societal issues and how do we change them? What do we do to change this big statistic? And I think what you're saying is it doesn't start with changing the statistics. It starts with changing things in your house.
Yeah, but I do think you have to go to the causal. Okay, what's happening? So social media. Okay, I'm not going to change social media, but as a parent, then if that is a defined thing that I think is driving it, then how do we how do we approach social media as our kids get older? I've got, 10 and 8 and then 4, twins are 4. Like, we're not in a spot where that's in the near term for us, but some of my son's friends are already in that space. Like, and that's challenging. But like, I think the causals need to drive then what we're going to go do.
You're saying we need to identify what's causing it and then figure out how to root those out in your own house.
Root them out potentially if they're, cancerous, right? But like, it could also just be boundaries.
Okay, let's hit some of those. So social media is one. We talked about just being busy. Yeah. Busy is a big piece of it. I think busy parents. Both parents are working.
Yeah.
Activities are busy. I feel like we just came off the heels of, and by the way, our son's still in T-ball, and we played 7 games in 11 days. And this is not all-stars. This isn't travel. This is like they're hitting off a tee and don't know how to throw the ball, and we're playing that many games. So what else? What other things do you think are causing that?
Yeah, so let's stop there. So if busyness, activities, agree, the dual income families is continuing to rise. So how do you then put barriers against that, right? So I see a lot of parents, and we had this decision actually recently of like the kids have this pressure of like, hey, I want to be on this team and I really like this sport, but I like this other sport too. And so you have this tension of, hey, like my kid's going to be left behind. And if they don't play this, so they got to play both. And then now all of a sudden you've got practice 6 nights a week and multiple games, and that's just one kid. So again, the boundaries you need to put in of like not letting the pressure of society of like, oh, my son's going to get left behind or my daughter's not going to be this thing if they don't get this trainer and do this sport and play year round, whatever. That's a real thing too. Like, so that again, social media, what's the boundary you're going to put in place? Being busy, acknowledging that, look, we're going to be busy, but what do we do as parents to say like, we're going to help with our family to ensure that it doesn't go to a point that's going to be detrimental. You know what I mean?
What about busy parents? Because I think about that sometimes. If Laura's listening right now, she's like, she's the one in our house who's saying we're busier than we need to be. We need to pull back.
Yeah. That's nice that Laura listens. Brittany, I think what she does, like I think I found out because what happens is like she'll send me a text, hey, heard the latest one, but like I think she like goes the first 2 minutes and then she fast forwards to like the last 4 and then she like pull out a point. But I'm sensing a pattern. So I need to we need to put like some little things in the middle of the episodes to see. Yeah. Little Easter eggs in the middle of it. Yeah. Busy parents, man. That's a tough one too, because you got to balance, what you want to go do in life. But again, I think, so here's a great example I saw in you. So last night we had our legacy makers, kind of our final monthly meeting at the church that you're very active in. Like you helped with the name, you helped think about content, you've been on stage of that thing, and you didn't come. You didn't show up.
I don't know if this is a positive or not.
No, but it is, because you were out at dinner with your family. You and I actually had some work travel over the weekend, and you're like, look, man, I need to be here. And so that's how I think, again, you're going to be busy, but how do you make sure you pick the right spots when you've got to rotate towards home or rotates towards your wife, right? So I think that's the boundary you put in place on the busy piece.
Okay. Social media, busy kids, activity overload, busy parents. Let's talk about this. When you hit those statistics earlier, one of the big drivers of that is an erosion of trust in institutions, which sounds like a really fancy thing. We don't trust churches the way that we used to, civic organizations. We're just not. We start from a place of not believing what other people are saying, which causes discontent. It causes this Gen Z attitude. One of the things we're trying to combat that is we're just trying to make a real commitment to be involved in our church locally. But what do you do beyond that?
Yeah. And again, think about, it's almost like this cynicism that is now part of like the culture in the US, in this country. It's like this cynical approach and thought to any kind of almost authority, right? And I think it's started, there's a lot of, you have all the examples, whether it was the atrocities with the Catholic Church, whether it's what's going on in the government with certain scandals that come out. And again, I don't know if it's new, but I think it's the age we live in. There's just information on all of it. There's so much information. And so people are questioning everything, like things that were never questioned. Think about like the school, like your school district. Like you send your kids to school, and the amount of people that are homeschooling because they don't trust what kids are getting fed in school. We talked about government. So you have all these things. I think what you have to almost do is like re-engineer that with your families. And I think what you're saying, like get them into the program, get them into church, get them into, trying to feed them the positive about what's going on. Because all they're hearing is negative, right? Every single thing is hey, this isn't, you could question everything, right? Which is okay. But man, it's, and I think it's coming out in those statistics.
Let me give you some more depressing statistics. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Confidence in organized religion from 1974 to 2019 is down from 65% to 36%. So 36%, about 1 in 3. Decline in trust in institutions. I mean, this is not a surprise. 10% have trust in Congress. I'd love to find out who those 10% are.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that trusts Congress. Trust in big business is down. Media. My question is, how do you, and I agree with what you're saying. We want our children to question things, to have a healthy cynicism, but it's not a great way to grow up to just distrust everybody and everything. Mm-hmm. So what do we do to start instilling that in our, and to me, I think it has to start with us as dads doing what we say we're going to do to at least create trust in, I want my kids to trust their parents. And so that's the first step for me.
Yeah. So said another way, I think the acceptance of the reality that we're in, right? Like it's one thing to bury your head and just say, hey, that, the poll is wrong, or that doesn't make, but in anything, the first step is accepting the spot like you're sitting in. Okay. Because you can't really go figure out what's next until you accept it. So that's the first step. The other thing I would say for me is my gut reaction when I saw the data and I hear data like that is to blame. Oh, it's, and I'm going to sound like someone I don't want to be, like a grumpy old man, the kids these days, or social media, Mark Zuckerberg, like what could you've done? But I think the real important thing is to stop blaming and figure out what are you going to do about it. And if you think that you're going to change the whole thing, you're going to be overwhelmed and not do anything, right? But you've got to start within your sphere of influence. So understand reality, stop blaming, and then, that allows you to really identify, in my opinion, where the problem areas in your house, in your family, like we had talked about, because that's what it comes down to. You've got to really understand what is the thing for you, what is the thing for your wife, what is the thing for you, for your kids, because then you can put up boundaries and you can actually attack them as, hey, my kid is feeling this way. How do I try to change that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. So you talk about accepting reality, stop blaming. So just acknowledge where we are, stop blaming other people, identify the problem areas. And then that last one is got to be addressing it with your kids. And when you think about that, so I want to combat this, but I think one of the things that you're pushing in on is that we need to acknowledge the fact with our kids that this is how the world is. Mm-hmm. Not to just try to do something different, but to say, when you go out, this is what you're going to see. This is what you're going to experience. And this is why we want to do something different. You've got, the two of us, you have the oldest kid. So you got a 10-year-old now.
Yeah.
How open and honest with him are you and Brittany about why you guys are doing things different or things that he may see or experience?
Yeah, way more open than I thought I would be, especially at his age right now. So by the, at the time that this will be, people will be listening to this, the birds and the bees conversation, I did not think I would be having with a fourth grader. Right. But the access that he has through his friends, and most of them have bigger brothers, like, I just see it. We can feel it. Like Brittany and I were like thinking it was going to be way longer before we needed to have some of these conversations, but you could just feel it that there's information that he's privy to that we didn't think he'd be privy to. So like that's an example. But addressing this with your children is not you, hey son, hey daughter, this is the thing and here's why, and it's the conversation. That's the shift. It's you're addressing, you're building trust, and you're acknowledging the fact, hey, I was once your age, but I never had to go through what you had to go through right now. I did not have this dynamic. I do not have that dynamic. And so I need him to want to feel comfortable to share with me things. I don't want to come across as, let me tell you all the, because honestly, man, like, I don't know what he's going through. I've been a 10-year-old boy, but not a 10-year-old boy in 2024. And so we have to have enough.
Okay, I'm going to throw you a curveball. You ready for this?
Yeah.
How do you balance having both being curious with him and having the confidence of your position? Because that tension, if you just are just confident, you say, I know everything, you're going to erode a relationship. He's not going to come to you. And we're using your oldest as the example here. But if you're only curious and you only ask about his context and you don't have a position about anything, that doesn't really work either. How do you navigate that? Are there specific tactics? And I mean, this is for the podcast, but this is for
I'll flip it.
myself.
I'll flip it to you. Like, what's been your approach with George? Because George is 6, right?
Yeah.
Is he 6?
He'll turn 6 this summer.
So, because I would love to hear how you're approaching, just not like this conversation, but how are you building that foundation in y'all's relationship? What are some of the things you're doing?
Well, one thing I took from you talk about this intentional time you have every month, this one-on-one time. And so we're trying to have that time where it's he and I just having those conversations and having the space to do them. I think the part that's been toughest for me is I want to have those conversations doing things that I want to do, and I got to find a way to do the things that he wants to do.
Yeah.
Like sometimes like, what do you want to do? I mean, Pokemon, I was never into that my whole life. I don't even understand it.
I like how you say that too. I don't know.
Well, he told me that's the way you say it, and I was like, you're wrong. I was like, it's Pokemon. And then we went and Googled it, and he's actually right. So I can't believe I'm discussing Pokemon. I never thought it'd be something I don't care, but I care about him. So I need to be interested in the things that he's interested in and ask him. So I'm trying to meet him where he is.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to very clearly, we had a conversation a couple weeks ago, why do we have to get up and go to church this Sunday? So-and-so friend at school, I'm not calling out and shaming anybody here. Mm-hmm. It's like, they don't have to go to church. Why do we have to do this? And so I want to tell him, I want to make sure I'm not just telling him what to do, but why we've made the decision to do it.
So the reason I asked the question is because you are going to have, whether it's 10, 11, 12, 15, 9, doesn't matter. At some point, there's going to be, some more serious conversation that you're going to have to get into, some serious wisdom that you want him to hear from you. And the foundation is laid when they're little like that. Right? Because the way that you're approaching that is exactly right. Like, I remember the first time I've started taking my kids on, like around 4 or 5 years old, we started to do this like one-on-one thing. And I remember I'd come with like a whole list of like, let me talk to the questions, and really quickly realized, to your point, you have to meet them where they're at. Like, they're going to talk about whatever they're going to talk about. And so what I would say to any parent is that foundation that you're laying before you need to have a conversation, or before you need to be in one of those big moments, is where it's at. Because if you only want to show up in those big moments and you haven't put in the work ahead of time to build the trust, to make them feel comfortable, to make them feel like you're a friend when you need to be a friend sometimes, and you're an authoritarian figure when you need to be an authoritarian figure. So I think that's what you do, Kev. I don't think there's a recipe for the moment. It's actually a lagging indicator for when you need to be. You've got to put in the work before, just like anything in life.
I think that's good. So my takeaways, one, the statistics are depressing. So where we are in society has shifted, and we have a couple options. We can be upset about it, or you talked about accepting reality, stop blaming, identify the problem areas, and then address head on with your kids. Any parting advice for how we do that?
No, I think that's right. Just not to get overwhelmed with what's out there. And it's depressing because we grew up in a different time, but that doesn't mean what the kids are feeling, they're feeling. It doesn't mean that's what I have to pull myself back from. Like, is the emotional, like, hey, but it was better when. It's not better. It just is, it is where we're at, accepting that, to your point, and really trying to take this thing one day at a time, right? Like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You're not going to shift anything outside your house until you fix your house. It's like I tell my team at the, where I work, we have a massive company. You don't change the culture of a massive company by, hey, I'm the one person who can do it. You start small, like you impact the culture of your team, and then someone's going to take notice. Say, what's going on over there? And then all of a sudden it grows. No different than what we're trying to do in this community.
Yeah. My final thought on that is when you zoom out, it's depressing. If you want to solve it, you've got to zoom in.
Yeah.
You've got to go to your house with your family and start right there. And as you begin to make those changes, we will not change the tides of culture with just that one group, but it's the way we start. And this is going to have to be a generational thing. And hopefully, regardless of your parents and your situation, you have the opportunity to start with your kids right now.
I love it, man. And there's one image that I saw that like puts a bow on this for me. It showed kind of the ebbs and flows, almost like imagine like an EKG of like the day, highs and lows, and you're just vroom, 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 vroom. And then it showed, okay, putting all that together over a week, and then it was less intense, but you had an upward trajectory, and then a month. And then you zoom out a year, and what you see in a year, it's just this like upward trajectory. So while there's highs and lows of a day, if you're focused on zooming in and consistent, you ultimately get to the spot where there's so much progress, there's so much advancement over time, but it's zooming in consistently before you can even take a look at what's out. But yes, focus on what you have in front of you.
I love it, man. It's been fun. Now we got to go apply it.
Yep.
Talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to Legacy Makers with Kevin Scott and Eric Blumenthal. Make sure you download and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
This podcast is a production of BG Ad Group. All rights reserved.